Before I get started, I want to say that I have researched and watched so many videos, read so many articles, and I really tried to check and double check and triple check the information that I found. Please, if I make mistakes and you want to correct them in the comments, go for it, because I think the most important thing is getting answers and finding out what happened. Any opinions I give in this video are completely my own and are just that, opinions and thoughts on what happened to this young man who was taken from his family and friends and the world far too soon. Jelani Day was close to his family. He was the fourth of 5 children and the youngest of 3 boys with 2 sisters. And that's why when the police came to the Day household on August 25th, which was a Wednesday, his mother knew immediately that something was wrong. And I think it is a real testament to how responsible Jelani was, that when he missed an appointment with his advisor and missed a couple days of class, it was immediately taken serious and reported to authorities. Think of all of the cases where that doesn't happen. But in this case, pretty quickly after he disappeared, not only did his family know that he was missing, but the authorities knew as well. Before we go forward into what we know and into the many questions that remain about what happened in those late August days, I want to go back and talk about who Jelani was. Jelani grew up in rural Danville, Illinois. Danville is a small city with about 30,000 residents. It's the county seat of Vermilion, and it's also near the border of Indiana. He left to go to college at Alabama A&M, where he received a degree in speech language pathology. With 4 of our 5 kids have been in speech, that's definitely a subject that's near and dear to my heart. Friends and family say that Jelani got that degree because he was inspired by a friend who had speech difficulties. After receiving his undergraduate degree, Jelani moved up to Bloomington, where he became a graduate student at Illinois State University. He was planning on becoming a doctor. And in addition to everything else he had going on, Jelani was also a member of the fraternity Omega Psi Phi. His mom describes him as a sweetheart who was always busy, but he took the time to keep in touch with his mom. Even on a trip to Puerto Rico, he called her and let her know what he was up to and what he was doing. On that Monday, so we're talking about 2 days before his family would hear that he was missing, Jelani called his mom so many times that when she was first alerted to him being missing, she thought that she had talked to him the previous day on Tuesday. But when she went back in her call log, she saw it had actually been that she'd spoken with him many times that Monday. And that doesn't sound like it was something that was unusual. One of the things that came up that they discussed was the excitement of an upcoming trip down to Destin, Florida for Thanksgiving that the family was taking together. Jelani's family last spoke to him, as I mentioned earlier, on August 23rd. The last known sighting of him at this point of time was the next day, on the 24th. The last known moments of Jelani were caught on surveillance camera when he went into Beyond Hello Cannabis Dispensary, which was also in Bloomington. He was driving his white Chrysler 300 that had a black cloth top, and it was a car that had once belonged to his grandfather. Jelani had worked to pay for the repairs to the car and to fix it up. And at first, both Jelani and his car were nowhere to be found. 2 days after he went missing, Jelani's car was found in a wooded area near the Illinois River. The strangest part about this was it happened to be in Peru, Illinois, which is a town that's 60 miles away from Bloomington. Now, Peru is a small town, 3 miles from the intersection of I-39 and I-80. It is an emerald valley that's bisected by both the Illinois River and the railroad, and it has a population of about 10,000 people. Probably stranger still was where the car was found. It was found near the parking lot, but not in the parking lot, of a YMCA. And this YMCA wasn't downtown. This was a place where you would have to drive through a residential neighborhood to get to the YMCA. So it wasn't the sort of place that he was likely to just stumble upon and leave his car. The other thing that points to this not being a place that Jelani just stumbled upon is the fact that his license plates had been removed. And that's why when they found the car, it wasn't immediately identified as Jelani's. 9 days after his car was found, and 11 days after he had initially disappeared, Jelani's body was found floating in the Illinois River. He was found near the south bank, about half a mile east of the Route 251 bridge. When the car was found, the clothes that Jelani had been wearing in the video at the dispensary from the 24th were found inside the car. His wallet was found a few blocks east of where the car was parked. And according to his mom, in one interview that I saw, some of his clothes was found on the riverbank by 2 young women. In another interview, it was said that his lanyard was found in another location. I was not clear from the interview on whether that was with the wallet or if it was somewhere else. The family was going to have to wait a while to find out whether or not the body that had been found in the river near his car was Jelani, because after what was likely around a week and a half in the river in August in Illinois, the fish and warm water that the body had been in had not left much evidence for the police. The coroner report said that he had drowned, but that was only because he was found in water. His remains were not in a condition to definitively show that he had actually drowned. The autopsy also found that there was no evidence of intoxication. The autopsy showed no evidence of injuries or trauma to the body, but after being in the water for that long, it seems like it's certainly possible that those injuries could be on parts of the body that were damaged so much after death that they can't really tell what happened. Some reports say that all of his organs were missing, his eyes were missing, his jaw was missing, and I have not been able to decipher from the reports that say that and from interviews with his family exactly what's true, but I know that his mother said that it was absolutely not organ harvesting and that his organs were not missing. The officers who investigated the case said that it was pretty suspicious and that the circumstances are unusual, and yet the family feels like they have done a lot of work, as if the case hasn't been taken that seriously by local law enforcement. According to Jelani's mother, Carmen, the family would feel much better if the FBI were to take over the case altogether because they have lost their faith in local law enforcement. She feels that it's likely that they would have ruled Jelani's death a suicide if she hadn't been so persistent in trying to find out what happened to him. After Jelani disappeared, his mom went to stores and asked to see security cameras. She more or less canvassed the area looking for evidence, I believe in Bloomington, where he was last seen, trying to find answers about where her son had disappeared to. It wasn't until October, though, that Jelani's phone was found. And the way that it was found was more than a little surprising. A man was driving down the interstate and he had a mattress in his truck, and the mattress flew off the back of the truck. He went back to retrieve the mattress, obviously getting out of his car, and while he was out of his car, he saw a cell phone with a shattered screen near the side of the highway. He went over, he picked up the phone, it didn't seem to be working. The man took the phone to a Walmart kiosk where he was paid $80 for it. Eventually, someone figured out that that phone belonged to Jelani and it was given to the police. Jelani's mom heard that the phone had been found and actually spoke with the man who had found it, who answered some of her questions before the police ever informed her that it had been found, which I can see happening because I'm sure that there's evidence that they want to keep to themselves, but she did have questions about what was on the phone and why she hadn't been told that her son's phone had been found. It's potentially a huge clue. The last time the phone had pinged was on 9:20 a.m. on that Tuesday morning that he had disappeared. As Jelani's family began to learn more about the town in which he was found, they learned something that was more than a little unsettling. They were told, and it was confirmed by James Lowen's book, Sundown Towns, A Hidden Dimension of American Racism, that Peru, Illinois was a historic sundown town. The definition of a sundown town is all white towns that were basically kept all white through a combination of discriminatory local laws, through intimidation, or probably more likely and ultimately through violence. And while I imagine many people would like to believe that's been left in the past, the fact that Peru is still 96.47% white, according to a 2000 census, means that the town hasn't changed all that much, at least demographically. As according to that same census, only 0.4% of the population is black. The thing about sundown towns is that they were towns in which it was known that if you weren't white, you needed to be out of the town by sundown or bad things could and would happen to you. Jelani's family and the police don't know why Jelani ended up in Peru, Illinois, but there have to be answers out there. Someone knows. It seems really unlikely that he would have just driven out to this little town 60 miles away, found this remote wooded parking lot through residential neighborhoods off the beaten path, taken off his clothes, climbed into the river, and drowned. And drowning is another thing that the family definitely takes issue with, and I do too. When I was watching all of the videos and reading everything about this, I was wondering the entire time whether or not Jelani could swim, and he could. He could not only swim, but he was a member of his school's swim team, I believe in high school. He was an avid swimmer. I mean, you have to be when you're on the swim team. This is one case where I would absolutely be shocked if foul play wasn't involved. The question is, what happened? His family needs and deserves answers. And while some might want to point to the possibility of suicide and that he walked into the water to drown himself with no intention of coming back, there are just several facts in this case that make that seem really unlikely. The first is that why would he remove his license plate if he was just going to kill himself? The second is that there just doesn't really seem to be any evidence of a history of depression or mental illness. But honestly, as someone who has struggled with depression for over 2 decades, I really hate that excuse anyways, because I feel like it's the go-to anytime a person with depression dies prematurely. It seems like it's the easy answer that's taken all too often. The thing that really convinced me the most is that multiple sources report that Jelani's father has cancer and that he was going to donate bone marrow for his father. I have not seen that confirmed by the family, but I have seen a quote from Jelani's father saying that Jelani regularly took him to his cancer treatments. And I guess what it just comes down to is that it doesn't make sense. I know suicide never does, but this just seems like all the evidence is pointing towards foul play, and we just need the missing pieces so that his family can finally have the peace that they deserve to at least know what happened to their beloved son and brother. Jelani's mother has said that somebody knows something. She's also said there are answers out there. I just need them to find them. If you know anything about what happened to Jelani Day on that day in August, please contact authorities. You can call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI to report what you know. The FBI is offering $10,000 to anyone with substantial information about what happened to Jelani on that day. As I was learning more and more about this case, I couldn't help but be reminded of the case that is local to me right now that I did my last video on, the Brendan Santo case, where the police have been searching the river for months now, and so far no one has any idea what happened to him. As a mom with now a teenager who is going to be out in the world before long, I think it's so important that the predators who are out there are brought to justice. So again, if you know something, please call that tip line. I'm going to put the information down below in the description, along with the many sources that I used for today's video. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit like so that more people can see it, or hit dislike if you don't. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Bye.